Hey baby girls, today I've got my sister in the studio and we're going to be doing her a brow tint and shape. I'm super excited to do these brows. She lives in Sheffield and I haven't touched these for ages. So I'm going to start off by cleansing the brows and making sure they're nice and clean, and then I go over with a dry cotton pad to make sure there's no residue of solution on there. I'm then going to mix my tint. I use 3 different tints for this. I use light brown, dark brown and grey. And I'm going to mix my developer and make sure that's all nice and mixed, and then I'm going to apply that to the brow. So I'm actually using HD tint, which only stains the hairs, so it's going to give a more natural look. She won't have like the tint stain on the skin. Lots of people always ask me about this tint. You can only buy it if you are HD brow trained, although I do believe they're doing a conversion course, so you could always message them and ask them if you could buy their products if you did a conversion course with them. So I actually mainly do, when I do my tints and shapes, I actually mainly use HD brow tint. I don't really do a lot of tint staining unless it's on like someone's brows who's quite old and they don't have like any hair there and I want to try and create more hair. But yeah, I mainly use this tint because I really love the look. It's really nice and natural. Doesn't look heavy on the face. I prefer working with this brand. Also, this product works so fast, so I've only had this on the brows for about 40 seconds and then I'm going to remove the tint. So you can see she's got so much hair to work with, but she's got very uneven brows, so I'm going to try and make them as symmetrical as possible. So using my Buff Brows pen, which I love by the way, this is my little mapping pen that I use and I've been using this for a little while and I love it. And I'm just going to sketch out roughly where I want my guidelines so I know where I'm going with the wax. Like I said earlier, her brows are really unsymmetrical, so I've got to try and balance these out. If I take too much out of the tails, when the tint fades off, they look really skinny. So I do have to leave quite a lot of hairs in those tails. She loves them thick and bushy and big and natural, so she doesn't like them too sleek and defined. So yes, I'm going to leave all those little hairs in there. So I don't always use my mapping pen when I'm waxing brows. If they've got super easy brows to follow, then I obviously won't use the pen. But if they've got unsymmetrical brows or brows that you feel like you want to make sure you don't take too much away, then I do always go for my pen. Just it's so much easier when you're waxing. You've got your guidelines there and you can't really make a mistake. Definitely think when you first start out as well, using a pen is amazing. A good tip for you newbies. So I speak about a barrier a lot in my videos that I've done on YouTube, and I'm going to use a barrier on my sister's brows today because she's got super sensitive skin when it comes to waxing and she used to graze quite a bit. I find sometimes when people use retinols, I find when people are using anti-aging creams, it can thin the skin. So by preventing grazes, I use a little bit of oil on a cotton pad. I dab this onto the skin and then I go over it with a little bit of translucent powder or for example, this is a contour powder I'm using today, and I dab over that to just absorb that oil, and that just puts a little bit of barrier in between the skin and the wax, and it prevents my sister from grazing. It's an amazing tip. I learnt this from HD Brows, and honestly it's been a lifesaver since I've been waxing. I never ever tend to graze anybody. It's a very rare occasion if someone grazes, but yeah, I always do this if they have sensitive skin, if they've been using any skincare which can be a little bit heavy on their skin. If I'm doing lamination, I always make sure this is being used. So yeah, I love this. I think this is a brilliant thing to know when waxing brows. And my spatula I'm going to use today for waxing the brows are just these little mini applicator spatulas. I go through stages which ones I like to use, and this week I love using these. The wax I use is Star Pill and it's an Azaline wax. It is amazing. If you haven't waxed brows using this wax, I really recommend getting it. You can get it in the US, I know that because it's a USA brand, and you can also get it in the UK. They've got a UK site as well, but I love it. And I normally start in the middle of the brows and I work my way out. You will notice when using a barrier, it is a little bit harder to apply the wax. It doesn't go on quite as seamless as what your wax will normally go on when not using one. But yeah, you just have to keep working it. You have to go over the area a few times. You might have to get a bit more wax on your spatula and repeat. But yeah, eventually you will get that nice crisp line with your wax, and then you can wax away using your strips. Sometimes it depends how I like to wax. I can see I've got a seamless line there, so I'm going to take my wax all the way through and I'm going to do one fresh wax in that area. Sometimes I like to do it in little sections and I do bit by bit, but yeah, I could see that I had a nice angle on that and I wanted to take that wax through to the end. So I like to work with little wax strips which I cut myself, and I like to work in little sections just because if I was to put a big wax strip on and then press it down, I'm just worried that if I can't see where the wax is, it would spread into the brows. So I just feel like I have more control doing it this way. You can see that shape is coming along so nice. There's a few little hairs there that I want to pluck out, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. Before waxing the tops of the brows, I always go in and trim them if I need to. If you don't, obviously you might get a bit of wax on those longer hairs and you might pull them out, so it's important to give them a trim beforehand. Also, you can go over certain types of moles. So as you can see, Sandy's mole isn't weeping, nothing sensitive about it. It's been there for years, so yeah, I'm happy to go over that. There was loads of hairs around it and it's safe to do so. And I'm just going to wax the top of the brow, and I'm going to do this in 2 sections. You can see that shape is really coming together. They look amazing. Before I move on to the next brow, I spot a few hairs that the wax hasn't pulled out. So I'm just going to grab my thread while I'm on the same brow, and I'm just going to get rid of those little hairs. It's important we don't go over that same area with wax, because she probably would have a graze if it was to go back over it. So yeah, we can either tweeze those hairs away or we can thread them. So I'm going to move on to the next brow and repeat the same steps. You'll notice on this brow, I don't do the same seamless finish with the wax as I did on the first brow. This is because I couldn't bend my wrist round as much, so I just do it in 2 smaller sections. It gives the same look and achieves the same results, but yeah, just slightly different. The reason why I'm dragging the wax a little bit lower is because she's got so much hair there. You can't really see on camera, but she had loads of fluffy hair there, and she's such a wimp, she won't let me thread that area. So I do have to go a little bit lower than I usually would with the wax, but that is only because it's my sister. I would usually probably thread that little bit that you could see where I went a bit lower. Although the hairs probably do need trimming, I don't actually have to cut those hairs because they're not in the way of the wax, so I might do those later on. So we are trying to make her brows as symmetrical as possible, but you can see in this clip the section A to B underneath the brows is a little bit sparser than the other side. We're not magicians. Brows are unsymmetrical and you are going to have some areas that are slightly sparser. That's fine, just show them how to pencil it in and they'll be happy. To remove any wax residue, I always like to use an after wax oil. If someone's prone to spotty skin and breakouts after, I would avoid using this step. This can irritate some people's skin. And finally, to soothe the brows, I always like to use an after wax lotion. I spot a few little fluffy hairs, some little blonde ones, so I just pick up my thread and just quickly get rid of those. And then also I did notice I wanted to trim this side of the brow as well, so I just give it a little trim on top. So just in the section I mentioned before, the little gap where she has under that brow, I'm just going to fill in with a little bit of brow pencil. I know this is going to come out, but it is nice when you're waxing someone's brows sometimes just to show them, look, all you need is a few strokes of pencil and that'll fill that gap out perfectly. And that's the end result. I mean, her brows look so lovely, so natural, so full, just how she likes them. So I'm really happy with that outcome. Just look at that before and after. Also, thank you so much for subscribing to my membership. I'll post more videos like this so you'll learn more tips and tricks in the beauty world. And please comment below if you have any questions. Love you all, baby girls. See you in the next one. Bye.
Love it? Oh. Yeah. So the only section I literally filled in is this bit here.